I'm not much of a mood reader, but have I bitten off more than I can chew for 2026? Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today I'm going to give you my ambitious reading plans for 2026. I'm going to give you the highlights, the reading events, some individual titles, some buddy reads. Not everything that I talk about today is going to be absolutely set in stone. I'm sure there are some events and some things that will happen that have not occurred to me or that I have forgotten. And some things that I mention may just fall by the wayside. But what will 2026 look like? Beginning in January, I have 2 reading groups on my Discord channel. The first reading group will be reading Gravity's Rainbow, beginning in January and ending in February. I am holding up this old mass market paperback, but I will actually be reading it on my Kindle and listening to the audiobook. There will be a link in the description of this video to my announcement for this group read. Join us for Gravity's Rainbow if you dare. Also beginning in January is the group read for Yoko Mishima's Sea of Fertility Quartet. In January, we will be reading Spring Snow. In February, we will be reading Runaway Horses. In March, The Temple of the Dawn. In April, The Decay of the Angel. I will leave a link to the announcement for this event in the description of this video. I'll be starting a private reading project for the 4 novels of John Williams. In January, I will read Nothing But the Night, an existential novel of sorts. In February, I will be reading Stoner, the story of a college professor. In March, I'll be reading Butcher's Crossing, a Western of sorts about buffalo hunting. Magnificent novel. And in April, I'll be reading the historical novel Augustus, about the Emperor Augustus. I said this will be a private reading group, but if people want to join me in reading the 4 novels of John Williams, I'll let you slide in through the back door so we can discuss it. After I finish reading the 4 John Williams novels, I'm going to morph this project into a generic NYRB classics reading project where I'm going to attempt to read 1, maybe 2 NRB classics every month. January will also house Haggard in January. This is a reading event to read the books of H. Rider Haggard. I will leave a link to my announcement in the description of this video. With Lee, I am going to be starting on Ugliness, edited by Umberto Eco. This is an art book about ugly people. I think we will read it in January, but it may stretch out into February as well. In February, I hope there is a returning event. Holmes is where the heart is. This event was created by Jim at Mystery and Mayhem to encourage people to read the stories of Sherlock Holmes. Also, pastiche fiction about Sherlock Holmes, and I have 2 possibilities for the pastiche fiction. One is West End Horror by Nicholas Mayer. This is Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper. I also have The Whitechapel Horrors by Edward B. Hanna. Again, Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper. I'm not sure which of these 2 novels I will read. I will also read a Sherlock Holmes novel and some Sherlock Holmes short stories. In March, I will be participating in March of the Mammoths. This is an event encouraging people to read books more than 800 pages long. And this year I want to tackle Trinity by Leon Uris. This is a novel about Ireland. I'm especially interested in this novel because later in the year I'm going to be visiting Ireland and I want a little more idea about what Ireland is like, at least in the fictional sense. Also being published in March is A Table for Fortune by William T. Vollmann. This is a massive novel of more than 3,000 pages. It's going to be published in 4 volumes. William T. Vollmann is a master of the postmodern novel. This is a novel about the CIA. I will take a long time to read this book, I think. May. In May, there is Horror Mayhem. This is an event created by Scott and Becky Bryant. Scott passed away a few years ago, but his event is continuing on. Horror Mayhem is about reading short horror fiction, something under 200 pages, maybe 250 pages, or horror short stories. I always love participating in this event. Last year, we had a theme, Decades of Dread, where you were trying to read a horror short story published in every decade. I don't know if there will be a theme for 2026. I hope there is a theme, but I don't know what it will be. There is a Voxer group called the Piñeiro Project, reading all the novels translated into English by Claudia Piñeiro. Cathedrals will be published in May. This is a story of a brutal crime and a woman that flees it. And 30 years later, she's going to be revisiting some of those events. I don't know much more, but it'll be published in May, and I'll be reading it with the Voxer group. June is June on the Range. June on the Range is an event created by Michael K. Vaughan to encourage people to read Westerns. I was really not into Westerns until Michael K. Vaughan created this event, and now I'm kind of hooked on Westerns. There are a whole lot of different types of Westerns. I know I'll be reading some traditional Westerns and some naughty Westerns. I may even be able to find a horror Western or two. We'll have to see. July. July is the month for Rocket Summer, another event created by Michael K. Vaughan. In Rocket Summer, readers are encouraged to read science fiction from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I'm not sure exactly what books I'll be reading, but I will be picking up this anthology, The Science Fiction Hall of Fame, Volume 1, edited by Robert Silverberg. This is the perfect anthology for this event. It has short stories that are considered the best in the genre from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I have read a few of these short stories before for Rocket Summer and other events, but this year I'm going to be reading the entire book to cover all the decades and some other science fiction novels as well. August. August has 2 great events. GarbAugust, created by that evil mastermind Criminale, encouraging people to read garbage books. Now, when we say garbage books, we don't mean that they're trash. They're the kind of book that college professors, high school teachers may not encourage their students to read because they're a little bit beneath them. They're fun to read books. They're books that you would not want to be caught reading on the subway. But I love this kind of salacious, trashy reading, and I participate in this event every year. To counteract GarbAugust, there is Faulkner in August, where people will be reading a book by William Faulkner in August. This year, we'll be reading Intruder in the Dust. In September, I hope there will be another reading event that will be returning, and that is Framed in September. This encourages people to read fiction about art, nonfiction about art, and to visit an art museum or art gallery. October. There is OctPOEber. OctPOEber is an event that encourages people to read poems or short stories by Edgar Allan Poe. It has gone on for a number of years, off and on. It did happen in 2025. I'm not sure it will happen in 2026, but if it does, I'll read a couple short stories by Edgar Allan Poe. He's always such a great author to reread. October is also famous for Victober. Victober is a reading event that encourages people to read Victorian literature. I always read just a little bit of Victorian literature in October. I am not a full participant in the event, but I do like Victorian writing, so we'll participate just a little bit. November has Dr. November. This is an event created by Mark at Book Time with Elvis. It is an event that encourages people to read espionage books, fiction and nonfiction. I will be definitely participating again in 2026 if this event happens. In December, there is Cthulhu Christmas. This is an event that I created with my buddy, Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, and this is just to encourage people to read the stories of H.P. Lovecraft or other authors imitating Lovecraft in the Cthulhu mythos in the month of December, and to read a Lovecraft story on Christmas Day. It's not a huge or popular event, but I'm still going to do it. Those are all the events tied to months. There will be some planned buddy reads for me, including a few science fiction novels, beginning with War of the Worlds and continuing through classic science fiction, the New Wave, and beyond. A few horror books too. I'm going to buddy read a few horror books this year, or 2026. And now on to my pile of possibilities. These are books that I'm thinking about reading, but have not actually made the commitment yet, with one exception. The landmark Herodotus. I do need to read Herodotus someday. The landmark Thucydides. I need to read Thucydides someday. And I was watching a video by Steve Donahue, and he was talking about what you need to read for ancient Greece. And he said, of course, to read the Iliad and the Odyssey. I have read both of these before, but before I tackle Herodotus and Thucydides, maybe I should reread the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Kushnama by Ranshah ibn Abdul Khair. This is a 12th century Persian epic about an evil emperor who's a monster with tusks. How can you refuse to read an epic about a monster with tusks who's also an evil emperor? I gotta read this someday. With Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, we're talking about reading some Philip K. Dick. We want to read Radio Free Almouth and Valis. Radio Free Almouth is an incomplete novel. It seems mostly complete, but it was a draft of a book he was working on and then abandoned because it wasn't quite working for him. And it was the inspiration or the genesis for Valis. Valis is one of my favorite Philip K. Dick books, so we want to take 2 months. Read this one, the first attempt, and then read the final book. Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics has always been on my case to read the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. This is just supposed to be a mind trip of a science fiction trilogy. I also want to focus on reading some anti-authoritarian novels. I have plans for a video that should be released sometime in 2025, maybe early 2026, about the 13 great anti-authoritarian novels, and I want to start reading them and rereading them because we are living in a time in the rise of authoritarianism, and I want to see what writers from the past had to say about authoritarian governments and people living under an authoritarian regime. So I definitely want to read more novels in that genre. I also want to start a project about reading philosophical novels. Novels like Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse. I have read Steppenwolf at least twice before, but I want to revisit it and revisit other philosophical novels. Novels maybe something like Dr. Faustus by Thomas Mann. I know I'll be reading Dr. Faustus because I just purchased the audiobook version of this to listen to as I read along with my paperback copy. I will start this January or maybe February. Okay, those are my ambitious reading plans for 2026. I don't think I can get to everything or every book that I've discussed in this video. I will have to pick and choose. There'll be other surprises that come along the way that I'm not expecting. Books that I will read in 2026 that I don't know about yet. Who knows what those will be? But if you've gotten this far in the video, are there any titles, any books in my plans that look especially interesting to you? Please let me know in the comments of this video. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.